I know that you've cooperated in at least one LISA project, the Low Input Sustainable Agriculture project that the government funded, I think 2 years ago or more. Right. Would you talk a little bit about that? What did you do? And you're the cooperating farmer, is that the right term? Yeah, we actually only participated in that for 1 year because then I got elected to the LISA North Central Administrative Council, and I thought it was a conflict of interest, so I pulled out of the program. But the first year, what we were trying to do, and then part of that research project was to find an alternative legume that would replace more traditional legumes that have been used that would do a couple of things. We were looking for a legume that wouldn't take as much moisture out of the soil, because North Dakota, where we are, has an average rainfall of about 18 to 19 inches, so we need to be very careful about conserving our moisture. And one of the more traditional legumes, which is one in fact that we use on most of our farm as a green manure, is yellow blossom sweet clover. And you have to manage that very carefully, otherwise it will take too much moisture out of the soil and rob the subsequent crop from its moisture. So we were looking for a legume that would take less moisture. We were looking for a legume that would perpetually reseed itself, so that once you seeded it, it would always be there and continue to feed nitrogen and green manure to the soil. That first year that I participated in the project was disappointing because it was 1988, which was the severest drought on record. Yes. So we didn't get very much of a legume established. We worked with Black Medic, and I'm sorry, I don't know. Well,
Black Medic is it's an interesting plant. It's actually been used quite successfly as an alternative legume in the Palouse area in Washington and in areas of Montana. It is a shorter plant, so consequently the reason that it won't take as much moisture, and it does seem to do quite well in reseeding itself. It's been a bit of a disappointment in North Dakota in that we're not quite sure it's going to be winter hardy enough to survive North Dakota's winters, and so the project is still going on, and they're still looking for some other experimenting with other legumes. The research center in Carrington has, I think they're dealing with 10 or 12 different varieties on small plot basis, and then are gradually pushing those out onto farms and trying to see how they perform in an on-farm setting.
Do you have any on your farm, Black Medic?
No, we don't now. We tried it that first year, and then we tried a second experiment the following year, which was 1989, which was again a drought year. But some of it survived in 1989. But since we're not participating directly in the program now, we decided to pull back out of it, and we've just gone back to yellow blossom sweet clover again. And we've actually learned to manage that pretty well. That's working quite successfully for us. So there's not a big pressing need for us right now to look for something else.
I'm interested in your use of the word manage to talk about managing the yellow blossom sweet clover. What do you mean, manage?
Well, the yellow blossom sweet clover is a plant that we're discovering fixes the majority of its nitrogen by the time it gets to just the beginning of the blossom stage.
So it's still fairly early on.
That's right, which at that point is usually 24 to 30 inches high, and it reaches that height by the first week in June, so it's early in the season.
And you would have planted it after frost, of course, in the spring.
No, you plant it, actually it's a biennial, so you plant it with a nurse crop the previous year.
Okay.
And so the thing that we've discovered is that the important thing is to incorporate it into the soil at the right time, and that's just as it starts to go into blossom. After it goes into full blossom, it really starts taking a lot of moisture out of the soil. And traditionally, when farmers have used sweet clover as a green manure, they let it go to full height because you have more stuff to put in.
Sure,
right?
it looks more impressive.
Right. And but that's when it really takes the moisture out, and if you don't get adequate rainfall after that, then you've robbed your subsequent crop from the moisture it needs. So managing it properly means timing the incorporation so that you get a maximum benefit in terms of the biomass that you're putting into the soil and the nitrogen that you fix, but not robbing it of the moisture that you need.
Does it also mean the appropriate timing of any kind of fertilizer that you might be using, any kind of organic fertilizer?
Well, we don't use any off-farm inputs anymore. We haven't since 1980 now.
I was thinking of manure.
Yeah, we do. And what we do in our rotation is we devote 1 year to what we call a soil building year, and that's the year when we incorporate the green manure, and then we compost all of our livestock manure, and we apply that during that same time. And that gives us a adequate nutrient base to depending on the soil type, enables us then to raise either 3 or 4 crops for, you know, from that nutrient supply.
And then you do it again.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.